Liv Morgan posted on Twitter very recently. She's currently touring Germany with WWE, and Liv Morgan faced off against her former nemesis, well, I imagine still current nemesis, Rhea Ripley, on the 16th of March, which is yesterday, in fact, as we record this, during a WWE live tour match. And she wrestled her in a street fight and apparently ended up in a painful ending with some whipping or some kendo sticks or whatever it is. It wasn't actually clear from her tweet, but she showed off an image of the bruises and scars that she got from that match. You were a bit taken aback by that, I believe.
Well, first of all, Liv Morgan's a good-looking woman. She's a very nice, attractive woman. And as far as me, I want to see them in the ring, but I don't want to see them all messed up. Somebody said, what about the women bleeding? I was said, no, hell no. We don't need to do that. I don't think that sells you any tickets. Because, half your audience is female. And I don't think the females, even though Liv Morgan, they might not like her, but they don't want to see her. To me, I'm just saying, just for me, I don't think they want to see her beat down like that and when the scars all over, because, a scar on a woman is one of the worst things she can have, especially her face. So I never was a fan of that. I was always a fan of, and I've talked about this before, of telling the story. And if Rhea, who won the match, do you know?
Rhea, I think.
Then Rhea won the match, and then she beat her up with the whatever kendo stick or whatever.
It was a street fight, so it could have been part of the match.
Yeah, but she beat her and then beat her some more. So she won the fight. So what type of, and I guess little Leo, she has a little heat on her by stealing that boyfriend of hers, I guess. But it doesn't settle an issue. But they're just trying to get to WrestleMania with it anyway. And I'm imagining, what can they have at WrestleMania if they had that on the pay-per-view?
Oh, no, that was on a house show. They're not wrestling at WrestleMania. They've got separate issues now. So Rhea's going with Bianca Belair and Io Sky. And Liv Morgan
was just a house show.
Yeah.
That wasn't on TV.
No.
Okay.
But the thing is, that's a lot of punishment to take for a house show as well.
Well, it does show the powers to be in charge that, they'll go that extra mile. It was probably a really good house, sold out house. Probably had a good reaction to those two in the ring. And if nothing more, I would say if I was booking it, I would say maybe a couple of shots and then let her go. But it looks like she had about 10 or 12 welts on her back. And then on her legs, she had more. And I looked at her face, and she looked like she was bleeding just a little bit over the eye. I think that's quite a lot for women to do. And I never, all the time that I was booking, I never called for a woman to bleed, because they would have looked at me like, you got to be out of your friggin' mind. Of course, they wasn't making $600,000 a year either. Now, I think $600,000 could entice you to get just a little bit of blood, a little bit of color, as they call it.
Obviously, you carried a whip, shoe baby. I know you've been hit by it maybe as much as you've used it on other people. Is there an art to making like a whip or a belt or something like that, which can or a kendo stick, whatever it is, get a good sound out of it, make it look like it hurt without leaving scars like that?
Well, with a stick, you hit them kind of up close, and you're not putting a big wind up to it. You're going a 3/4 wind up, and you're kind of killing it when you're connecting with skin. The whip is something different, though. You can back off the guy and throw it as hard as you want to, if you just know how to place it. Now, I doubt anybody that's listening to this podcast is going to go out and buy a whip, run down the street to their buddy and say, here, Dutch said it doesn't hurt. Hit me with it. But what you do, you throw it behind the guy, behind the guy. And so all the cracker goes behind the guy, and that's when it pops. And as long as he jumps when it pops, you got him. Because you don't have to like just throw it out there a little bit. You can't throw a whip out like that. You're either going to throw it or you're not going to throw it. And you just wind it up, and you gotta extend it so it catches. And why it pops is, and I've told several people this, why it pops is that cracker part is traveling faster than sound. That's what it's like, a small sonic boom. It's what it is. So if you throw it behind him, it pops, he jumps, and it moves so fast, you can't tell it, because he's only going to take about 2 or 3, and he's going to get out of the ring until your job is done. Make sense?
Yeah.
When I was first learning to do it, Ox Baker had a whip in his car one time. And I says, "What is this?" He said, "It's a whip." And well, I said, "I can see it's a whip. Can you use this?" And he threw it out a couple of times. And I said, "Hey, you want to sell it?" Because I was going to practice with it. My first whip was an old whip that Ox Baker had. So, and I had just started in the business, like I'd been in the business about a year, and I'd ride with Ox a lot. So I took it back to my apartment, my house, and I'd go out in it was an apartment complex. It didn't have backyard. They had a grassy area, and I started throwing it, but I threw it like this and pulled it back. Don't ever pull a whip back at you, because it'll go out there, it won't pop, and it comes back almost the same speed as you threw it initially. Because I got hit in the face a couple of times by myself, I might add, and I had to go and ask the Ox, "Well, how do you do this?" And then he came out there, and he threw it. Oh, it sounds great, but till it comes back and it'll hit you on the arms, or and you always ducking. I was always ducking for my first 10 throws. Hell, I was hurt by that time. But I said, they got to be some kind of a gimmick to this. I'm going to go ask Ox. So I went up there and knocked on his door, and he answered. And I asked him, "Hey, can you come and show me how to do this thing?" And he said, "Yeah." So since that time, I've learned how to throw it. And I haven't really hurt anybody. But I have tapped somebody kind of hard with it. I moved in on it a little bit. There used to be a Japanese fellow. He really wasn't Japanese. He was Hawaiian. Tojo Yamamoto. And he had more heat in Memphis. And when I introduced that bullwhip, I said, "I'm going to hit him with this bullwhip." Oh man, us people were into that. They wanted to see me hit him so bad. And I got the whip the first week. It was a DQ, I guess. I forgot what it was now. And the second week, I went to get it, but he took it away from me, and he hit me a couple of times, and then I threw it, and he took off again. And the third match I had with him, it was the bullwhip on a pole match. Because Memphis was a gimmick town anyway. So, and I remember one time I knocked the pole, I knocked the bullwhip off the top pole, and Tojo was going up. And he got up there and he went, and he was filling up around top. There was no bullwhip. And he turned around and he saw me, and I showered down on him with that bullwhip while he was on the pole. The building came in. Wow. Of course, it was popping behind him. Then he got out, and then he ran, and he was managing 2 Japanese boys. They ran in. I got a piece of them too. And so that's how you end a DQ. You got to end with this up. They wanted to see more, but you didn't give them more. But I had some good matches with Tojo, because he was a great worker, but he was more timing than anything else. And he carried something in his, like most Japanese, he would carry something in his trunks, and all he had to do was go for it. People go nuts. That was a different era, a different time, and wrestling fans were totally I think if they would have been 10,000 there, we have put 12,000 in Memphis. But I bet half of them would tell you it's fake, and the other half would tell you, no, it's they would say it's real, and then the other half would say, no, it's fake. But they get mad at each other sometimes. They'd always end it with that. So
Small guy as well, wasn't he, Tojo?
what's that?
He was like 5'4" or something, wasn't he?
Oh,
Tojo?
he was short, but it wasn't. See, at that time, I forgot what it was. The Second World War was over in 45, 1945, but a lot of men had fought in that war, and they hated the Japanese people. So when he went out there and he'd do an interview in Japanese, they'd go nuts because they would think back, when the Japanese were trying to kill them, they were trying to kill the Japanese, and there was no mistaking when Tojo went out to the ring till they turned him babyface, till they turned him good guy. There was if you'd have seen him for the first time walking out there, you didn't like him because he was from Japan and he'd do all this stuff. You would just hate him. He was hated naturally. But we're not talking about hate on this show, are we?
No. I mean, you can do.
Okay. Love everybody.